Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. The Oklahoma Sooners win a very tightly contested recruiting battle for three-star defensive lineman Jayden Jackson out of IMGA Academy. And this is a really good get for a couple of reasons, but I want to start with a little bit of a deeper cut. Jayden Jackson, from what you read, is kind of the leader of that IMG Academy defensive line. He also happens to be really good friends with the Oklahoma Sooners' top target, David Stone. So not only do you get a phenomenal player in Jayden Jackson, who we are going to talk about, dig into the film, and talk about what he's going to bring to this defensive line, but you also probably nothing but help your chances with landing David Stone, who also plays at IMG Academy with Jayden Jackson. Now, before we get into Jayden Jackson, and then take a look at this Sooners class that really is coming along, just want to say thank you to you guys, and especially the Sooner fans. You guys have been riding with the boys for a while. We've talked a ton of Oklahoma, whether it's in the transfer portal, whether it's on the recruiting trail. Can't thank you guys enough for showing love to the boys. So if you do enjoy the updates, you enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys rocking with us. And let's get into Jayden Jackson. And I started with the connection with David Stone. That does not mean to understate the player I think Jayden Jackson is. And you look at the offer list, and not just the offer list, but how he was a top priority for top teams across the country, right? Top priority for teams like Florida, Ohio State, Miami, obviously Oklahoma, and Texas. This is a guy that, okay, 3-star according to 24/7 Sports. He's a 4-star on the composite. Seemingly a player that these Power 5 teams value a hell of a lot more than his national recruiting ranking. I'm excited to get into Jayden Jackson. The first thing I want to talk about is this Brent Venables defense wants to get after the quarterback. They want to be aggressive. And Jayden Jackson, although I think he can be an elite pass rusher from the inside, I think the value that Jayden Jackson brings is winning on first and second down. And how do you create those turnovers? How do you create those big-time negative plays? It's getting into third and long when you can pin your ears back, give offenses different looks, and really try to get after it. But you have to win first and second down. And I don't think there's a better defensive lineman in the country to help do that than a guy like Jayden Jackson. He goes 6'2", 300 pounds, phenomenal athlete. I mean, like the ability to move laterally, the ability to take on blocks. You see it. He's not the biggest guy. He plays with low pad levels. He's extremely strong. The power in his hands are off the charts. And you guys don't believe me, let's just get into the film. And again, I think this is such a massive get. The first thing you're going to see is just how dominant he is in the run game, whether it's taking on double teams, whether it's penetrating, or whether it's just shedding blocks. Jayden Jackson lives in the backfield, and he's going to be a guy that, one, I think can be a day one contributor just because of the frame and his build already, but also it's just a guy that is going to allow this Oklahoma defense to see a lot more third and longs, to see a lot more negative plays, and the ability to get after the passer during those third and longs. You fire up the film, and just the get off for how big this kid is, it's absolutely insane. Like, gets off the ball extremely well, lives in the backfield. You're also going to see just a really good athlete, which is rare for those big defensive tackles who are 6'2", 300 pounds. Absolute block destruction right there. Gets in the backfield, makes plays. Not only does he penetrate, but he also finds the football, which is another rarity when you look at some of these top interior defensive linemen. Such a massive fan of Jayden Jackson. The point of attack, one of the strongest players at the point of attack. And again, he's a guy that even if he doesn't light up the stat sheet in terms of tackle, I mean, splitting a double team right there, getting in behind the line of scrimmage, I think he will light up the stat sheet. But he's a guy that even if he doesn't light up the stat sheet, those linebackers are going to be loving playing behind Jayden Jackson with how well he can be disruptive, how much of a game wrecker he can be. And another thing I just want to talk about with Jayden Jackson is that when you read about him and who, I mean, run that one back. We got to run that one back because this is some special stuff in terms of power in the hand. Just puts a center on the turf and then gets beyond the line of scrimmage and makes play. One of the things, and we'll take a look at how this OU class is coming together. That's the visit list. We'll talk about that in a second. How this OU class is coming together, you got to really like it. And specifically with Jayden Jackson, he is the leader of that IMG team, and you guys know how loaded of a roster this IMG team is. When you can find the guy who is the leader of such a talented group, you really got to believe in the leadership skills that Jayden Jackson kind of exhibits, right? If you're the best player on your team, you're also probably the leader, and it's not that hard to be the leader. Jayden Jackson, probably not the best player on IMG, right? When you talk about guys like David Stone also on that defensive line, but when you read about him, he is the leader of that group. He's the vocal leader, and I think that is massive, massive, massive in terms of the quality of player and the quality of person that Brent Venables is getting on this defensive side of the ball. And you take a look at this class, and they haven't factored in Jayden Jackson yet. Man, you got to be excited, right? It's a little bit of a slow start, but we're going to talk about some of the top targets that are maybe trending to Oklahoma. But Zion Kearney, like a big matchup nightmare wide receiver, and Devon Mitchell, two guys who you feel really good about coming in. Jackson Arnold, probably the quarterback one, some really good weapons. Shout out to Oklahoma fans for letting me know about Devon Mitchell reclassifying to 2024. I heard the rumors when we talked about Devon Mitchell. Wasn't sure that it was like set in stone. It looks like he will be reclassifying to that 2024 class. So thank you for the Oklahoma fans for updating the boys on that. And then you take a look at this class really coming together. Ivan Carrion, a guy that I was really excited about to flip from Texas Tech, 6'6", 196. Talk about another matchup nightmare who has a track and field background. This guy can move and be a big target and a big body guy at the catch point. But what's even more exciting for the Oklahoma fans is you take a look at what this class can be, and that's kind of been the narrative of what we've been talking about this Oklahoma class. A slow start in terms of verbal commitments, but in terms of the traction they're having with some of these top targets, you got to be feeling really good, right? David Stone, I think the Sooners continue to be leaders. It's been a wild, wild ride in terms of the recruiting process. I think the earlier you can lock in David Stone, the better, just because he is a guy that has a little bit of a gravitational pull in terms of you get him in your class. I think a lot more people are kind of interested in joining this Oklahoma class. But then Taylor Tatum, he'll be committing at the end of the month. Oklahoma seems to be pulling ahead of USC for that. So you're looking at the number one running back in the class coming in. You're looking at David Stone, the number 3 defensive lineman in the class coming in. And then we got to talk about, a guy like Nigel Smith, who Oklahoma I still think continues to trend for. Caden Durham, again, like if you bring in Taylor Tatum, you already have Xavier Robinson. I don't know if you land Caden Durham, but I know he's still like Oklahoma. He loves Oklahoma. Bennett Warren's another guy that I think Oklahoma has a really good shot at. From the state of Texas, considered a Michigan lean for a while. And as a Michigan fan, we already got 5 offensive linemen in the boat. Now, as much as I would love Bennett Warren to join this Michigan class, Michigan has 25 commits. They got 5 guys on the offensive line, 4 of which are offensive tackles. I could see Bennett Warren pivoting from Michigan, and it seems like Oklahoma would be the landing spot that makes the most sense. But going down the list, I mean, continue to see names that are trending for Oklahoma, and I want to go down to a guy in Williams-Nwaneri. Again, we talk about the idea of David Stone, Williams-Nwaneri. Now you add Jayden Jackson. Now you add Nigel Smith. If you can land 4 of those guys, that's what the Brent Venables defense is predicated on. Dominant defensive line at the point of attack. And it looks like this could be a special class for Oklahoma in terms of that defensive line. And that is the key to this Brent Venables defense. He's obviously putting a lot of stock. You saw him put a lot of stock in the transfer portal as well to bolster that defensive line. This 2024 class could be really special for Oklahoma in terms of recruiting that defensive line. But you continue to go down the list. There are still some big names that are trending Oklahoma. Zion Raggins from the state of Georgia, absolute burners, right? A 10-4, 400-meter dash time. And talking about stretching the field, giving Jackson Arnold a guy that can stretch the field vertically. Zion Raggins would be a massive, massive get for Oklahoma. So again, only 12 commitments in the class. This will be your 13th. But if you're an OU fan, you got to be feeling really, really good about where Oklahoma stands in terms of how they're going to finish this 2024 class. And we've said this a lot. Oklahoma stacks some wins in 2023. I think you get the spatula out a little bit, because I think this program, if they can go 10-2 or 11-1, which is certainly possible, we're very high on Oklahoma heading into 2023. That's when you see them maybe stack another top 5, top 8 class together. And you're looking at Oklahoma going to the SEC. And if you're a Sooners fan, you got to be absolutely thrilled with what that looks like. Again, want to keep this one short, but update the Sooner fans on this 2024 class. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. Again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.